So just earlier today, it was confirmed that Carlos Ulberg is going to be stepping in on short notice to replace Khalil Rountree and fight Jamahal Hill in what potentially could be a #1 contender fight in the co-main event of one of the biggest cards of the year, because it is the Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler card, UFC 303, a massive opportunity for Carlos Ulberg, but also still a big opportunity for Jamahal Hill to rebound from his loss against Alex Pereira, and especially rebound also from the injury that he did have, because if you guys, well, you probably should know by now, of course, Jamahal Hill did injure himself. I believe it was the Achilles tendon in his leg, and he ended up getting a surgery on that leg to repair it. And he come back against Alex Pereira for UFC 300, and a lot of people were questioning, did he come back too early, this and that, and to be fair, maybe he did, because to my understanding, I think the recovery time, I could be getting the numbers wrong, but the recovery time from the surgery that he did have to repair the Achilles that he did tear is 8 to 10 months. And I think that when he returned against Alex Pereira, that was kind of a short notice, kind of hashed together fight as well at the time. It was kind of at the 8-month mark from the surgery that did happen. So he really was kind of pushing, not really, I guess just kind of pushing his luck, I guess would be the terminology for that. But he really was pushing the surgery recovery time to come back and fight Alex Pereira. And then not only that, did he lose the fight by knockout. A couple of weeks after he got knocked out, his fight against Khalil Rountree for this card was announced, so he was really trying to get back in there in the UFC and try and get a win back and maybe have another opportunity to go out there and then fight for a title again should he have beaten Khalil Rountree. But now he's going to be fighting Carlos Ulberg, and Carlos Ulberg, I feel like maybe he very sneakily hinted that he knew something was up with Khalil Rountree taking on Jamahal Hill, or vice versa. Because in his interview with Ariel Helwani, he's literally lying in bed. He kind of looked a little bit half asleep, but he was saying to Ariel Helwani, he was like, oh, you know, like, I'm ready to step in on short notice. I know that Jamahal Hill versus Khalil Rountree's coming up, and I'm going to be ready to step in. And then Ariel Helwani, kind of being the very investigative reporter that he is, pretty much said, oh, do you know something? Do you know if something is going on with that fight? And Carlos Ulberg's like, nah, don't know nothing about that, eh? Just talking about the fight that's coming up. But he knew something, because literally, apparently, he instantly accepted the fight when it was called up for him to get in there. And I do want to say something as well for this fight. I also feel like it's a massive opportunity for Carlos Ulberg to potentially get a title shot out of this and create a massive storyline with Alex Pereira, because Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira probably have one of the biggest or most popular sort of sporting rivalries in MMA, or one of the biggest MMA rivalries, I guess you could say, that has spanned many, many years. Of course, with Alex Pereira beating Israel Adesanya in the UFC, but also with Adesanya beating him in the UFC, but Pereira holding wins over him in kickboxing. But now they've kind of moved their separate ways. You could still kind of continue a little bit of a rivalry between City Kickboxing and Alex Pereira, because Carlos Ulberg could potentially fight Alex Pereira if he is to go out there and beat Jamahal Hill, and that would be a massive fight and a massive storyline, because stylistically that would be a fantastic fight. However, he would have to get past Jamahal Hill first, and I'm going to go out there and say I think he does. I genuinely do feel like Carlos Ulberg has a legitimate chance to upset Jamahal Hill. I understand it probably wouldn't be an upset, because right now, today, the fight odds were released by fightodds.io. The opening odds, -110 Jamahal Hill, -110 Carlos Ulberg. So the sports books have looked at this and they think it's a 50-50 fight. And they're just kind of letting the public decide, I think, where they're going to put the money, where the sharps are going to put the money, and kind of just letting the people that will be putting the money on the fight dictate where the line is going to go. And I do predict that the money is going to come on Jamahal Hill, so we're going to see Carlos Ulberg as the underdog in this fight, but I do think he does win. I do believe that Carlos Ulberg is going to go out there and defeat Jamahal Hill, because not only is Jamahal Hill going to be coming into this fight once again off the back of that massive surgery where he had his Achilles tendon repaired, he's also going to have to come back after losing to Alex Pereira. And not only did he get knocked out, and you could make an argument that he should have sat out for a long time, because I know in a lot of other sports, if you get a brain injury, if you get knocked out, you're sitting on the sidelines for 6 weeks, you know. And for Jamahal Hill, you know, he's only going to be getting into this matchup a couple of months after he was knocked out by Alex Pereira. So he hasn't really recovered from the KO physically, potentially, but also mentally as well, because to my understanding, that is the first time Jamahal Hill has ever actually been knocked out. You know, and it wasn't really like a big time KO, like it wasn't like Justin Gaethje getting slept by Max Holloway, but you know, he still did get a left hook from Alex Pereira that dropped him with some ground and pounds as well to really finish off the fight. So he's going to have to come into this fight off a KO loss, and a recent one as well. So now the idea is kind of in his head that he could get knocked out. And then with Carlos Ulberg, I guess you could say, you look at his strength of schedule, you know, he hasn't really beaten the best guys. I mean, Alonzo Menafield, with Pat Barry in his corner, just ran into his jabs. I guess, like, Carlos Ulberg started throwing the jab, but then Menafield just ran forward into him like an idiot and got slept. Weird fight. Dalton Young gave him a pretty decent fight, I feel, you know, and then Potieria and Nikolai and Nchukwi just aren't really the best guys. So yes, the strength of schedule for Ulberg isn't really there, like, at all, to be fair. But striker versus striker, Ulberg's no slouch on the feet. He's got a kickboxing background. You can see actually in this photo here, he is the King of the Ring champion, which is a kickboxing tournament. I believe it only takes place in New Zealand, and it is a pretty big deal as well. There are a lot of very talented fighters that do take place in the tournament, and of course, Ulberg has won it. I think that we're going to go out there, and I think we are going to see Ulberg beat Jamahal Hill. I think Jamahal Hill is going to have to be coming back from that injury again. You know, I think the injury is going to be a big talking point, and I know a lot of people will probably want me to talk about skill for skill, but I do think there is more variables in the fight than that. Not only is Ulberg, though, a very, very talented and powerful striker that we have seen, I think he's matured a lot in the octagon as his career's gone by. I think he's improving as well. And yeah, I think we are going to see stylistically it's a good matchup for Ulberg. He's a good striker, striker versus striker. Jamahal Hill's not going to take him down. I guess you could almost look at what Alex Pereira was doing in London, even though that fight didn't last very long. You could build a game plan around that. And then another one as well that I think would be worth noting that just kind of appeared to me is Israel Adesanya kind of coached Jamahal Hill for the Alex Pereira fight. So maybe Jamahal Hill was calling Izzy and saying, oh, hey, Izzy, I'm really good at throwing the 1-2, or hey, I really, really like throwing my right hook after my left low kick, or just something like that. Now Israel Adesanya, you know, was saying like, oh, okay, so you can do this, you can make this read, or so and so. Potentially has information about Jamahal Hill that he's given to him so that Izzy could help him beat Pereira. Like, there could actually be some sort of intangibles in that sort of aspect as well, but yeah, that's kind of where I just wanted to go with the video, talk about the fight as it's been announced. I do think Ulberg is going to win. He is going to be my pick. I know that it might seem biased because he's from New Zealand, but I think it's a good matchup for him. And I just want to quickly run through the UFC 303 card. I am leaning Chandler in the main event. I think Philly will beat Swanson. I think Jillian Robertson will submit Michelle Waterson. Very low confidence in Ray Saruya, but this guy, if he can get past Carlos Hernandez, that's a massive step up in competition for him, but he could be the next Tatsuro Taira kind of fighter because they fight the exact same way, and they're also both from Japan. Marc-Andre Barrial is a really good fighter. He really is, but I think that Joe Pyfer's power might be too much in that one. I guess Chiasson beats Bueno Silva. I don't know about that one. I think Simone beats Oliveira, and I'm pretty confident in that, to be honest with you. I like Oliveira a lot as a prospect. I like his personality because, my goodness, this guy is brash, would be the word, and man, he can talk, and he's talked himself into a fight, which I just don't see him being able to get past Simone. Oliveira was getting given problems by Bernardo Sapai, who fought him on short notice and as a boxer, and Simone's going to be a non-stop wrestler. Oliveira has shown to have questionable takedown defense in the past. He's very, very powerful, but he's very sloppy on the feet. Simone, in my opinion, should have absolutely no business with him on the feet. I think you avoid striking with Oliveira at all costs. The only way that Oliveira beats Simone is if he can kind of just land something massive, but aside from that, I do think Simone's just going to be taking him down. I think we're going to see a standout performance from Peyton Talbot. The UFC sees him as a future star. I said on the Contender Series when he was fighting that it reminds me of Sean O'Malley and has star potential. The UFC obviously see that as well. I think he's going to beat Giannis Gamori. I think this is actually a fight which the UFC have kind of made for Talbot to get another KO win. Talbot is a star. He will be a star. Like, this guy, he's going to get the O'Malley treatment, I think, and I think it's going to be for the better. He's got a very interesting personality for MMA as well, which a lot of very, very, how do I word this appropriately? Very close-minded MMA fans don't like whatsoever. But I think Talbot could be a star. I think Boudet beats Halovsky just by clinching him against the cage. And I think Jordan beats Gene Silver, because I'm not sold on Gene Silver whatsoever. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.